Looking at examples 7 and 8 in this video, we're just going to expand this. We're just adding a little bit extra practice in here for those of you who feel like you need it. So please pause the video and work through it to see if you get it correct, or if you're just completely baffled and lost, watch and hopefully learn. Here we go. Example 7, we have 2x minus 1 in the binomial, and that's being raised to the 4th power. So remember, our goal here is we're going to treat this like it's a plus b to the 4th first. So we've identified here that this is 4th degree here. We're choosing row 4, which means there are going to be 5 terms in the expansion. Let's go ahead and write out a little template for ourselves. We've got 1 times something plus 4 times something plus 6 times something plus 4 times something plus 1 times something. Those are our 5 terms. And remember now that the pattern that happens with our variables, so with our first variable here on the a, right, it's going to start out with the greatest exponent, so that'd be a to the 4th. Then we'd have a to the 3rd, a to the 2nd, a to the 1st, and then a to the 0 we don't need to write in. And our b values, so we do it here, right? The first one would be b to the 0. The second one has to be b to the 1st, because remember, the exponents have to add to give us 4. And then we're going to have a b squared. We'll have a b to the 3rd. And then the last term will be a b to the 4th. Following that here, we are going to want to take it and substitute in the 2x for all of our a values. So anywhere we see an a, that's going to become a 2x. And anywhere where we see a b, it should become a -1. So it's really important that you choose to put these into parentheses the correct way when you're writing them out. So instead of a to the 4th, we're going to have a 1 times 2x to the 4th. And I'll put the 1 out there, but it really doesn't need to be there. Plus 4 times 2x to the 3rd times our b value is -1, so we'll put a -1 in there. Then we go to the next one, 6 times 2x squared times -1 squared, plus 4 times the 2x times -1 to the 3rd, and then plus 1 times -1 to the 4th. All we need to do now is simplify it down, and we'll be finished with this problem. So 1 times a 2x to the 4th. Well, this is like a 2 to the 4th and an x to the 4th, so that should be 16x to the 4th. The next one, we've got a 4 times 2 to the 3rd is 8 times a -1. So when you multiply that together, you should get a -32 x to the 3rd. For the next one, you've got a 6, you've got a 2 squared, which is 4, and you got a -1 squared, which is 1. So 6 times 4 times 1 should be 24, and that would be x squareds. The next one here, we have 4 times 2 times -1 to the 3rd. So 4 and 2 are fine. -1 to the 3rd is still just -1. So that would be like a -8, and our x is just singular there. And then the last one, 1 times a -1 to the 4th. Well, that should end up giving us just 1. Therefore, this is our answer, 16x to the 4th minus 32x to the 3rd plus 24x squared minus 8x plus 1. Moving into example 8, we have 4 minus y to the 3rd power. Again, we want to treat it as like it's a plus b to the 3rd power. When we look at our row 3 here, right, that means we're going to have 4 terms, just like we were saying. We'll go ahead and do 1, and I won't write the letters in there. You can start writing the letters in there if you're comfortable with that, but I'm going to just write out the coefficients first. 1 plus 3 times something plus 3 times something plus 1 times something. Our a value here should end up being the 3rd, the 2nd, the 1st, and then no a's. B should be 0, b to the 1st, b squared, and then b to the third power. Now we're going to take it here, and just like with the last one, identify our a values there. We're going to plug in 4 for each of those. And then our b value is a negative y. So anywhere we see a b, we're going to put in a negative y, and then we're going to simplify everything down. So 4 to the third power plus 3 times 4 squared times negative y plus 3 times our 4 times our negative y to the second power. And then we have plus 1 times negative y to the third power. And all you need to do is just take your time and simplify. 4 to the third, it should be 64. On the next part, 3 times 4 squared, so 16 times 3 is going to be 48. And we're still multiplying times negative y. And we'll simplify one more step here in just a moment. And then I've got 3 times 4 times a negative y times negative y would be a y squared. So this would be like plus 12y squared. And then the last little term here, 1 times negative y to the third would end up being a negative y to the third. And then I'm just going to simplify just this last little bit. So I should have 64 minus 48y plus 12y squared minus y to the third. And that should be our answer. If you have questions, please make sure you reach out.